Amara sat on the edge of her bed in a sheer nightgown, her baby bump heavy against the thin fabric, her phone in both hands. Pregnancy hormones were a special kind of evil. She typed without thinking. "Baby, I'm horny. I need you in me. Come home now." Sent. She exhaled. Her phone buzzed immediately. She smiled, picked it up. "Okay, my love, I'm coming. Right now." The smile died. She looked at the name at the top of the screen. Do not text. Kwan. Her stomach dropped through the floor. The baby kicked, hard, like even he knew. Her fingers flew. "Wrong number, I am so sorry. I am a married pregnant woman. Please delete that. Please pretend this never happened, I am begging you." But even as she typed, she could see it. Delivered. Read. Too late. 3 dots appeared. She stopped breathing. Married, pregnant, and alone at 10:47 p.m. "How do you know I'm alone?" "You've called your husband 14 times today. He answered once, for 43 seconds. You saved my contact as do not text. Someone told you to stay away from me." A pause. "I'm curious who. I'm blocking this number. Before you do, your husband hasn't been at work. He's been at the Four Seasons Midtown, room 1412, 4 days. He did not check in alone." Her hand went to her belly without her telling it to. Her doorbell rang. "That was you, wasn't it?" "Open the door, Amara. Stop right there. Before we go 1 second further, you need to understand who just rang that bell." A federal agent in an Atlanta field office slid a photograph across a metal table. His partner looked at it, did not touch it. "If this name surfaces in your case," the first agent said quietly, "you close the file. You go home. You do not ask questions." "Why?" "Because the last 3 people who asked aren't around anymore." A restaurant owner in Koreatown, Atlanta got a single text one Tuesday morning. 2 words, no context. He closed his restaurant for a week and didn't explain to anyone why. A man in a Seoul penthouse laughed when someone mentioned the name Kwon Jae-won. Then he stopped laughing, looked at his phone like it might be listening. "Don't say that name on a call," he whispered. Don't say it anywhere." That is who rang Amara's doorbell at 10:47 p.m. in Atlanta, Georgia, and she opened it. Every intelligent cell in her body said don't. She opened it anyway. Kwon Jae-won stood on her porch like he'd always been there. 6'2", dark suit, sleeves rolled. His eyes found her face and stayed there. Not her belly, not the house. Her face, steady, unreadable. 2 men stood in the shadows behind him. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "I know. I didn't invite you. I know that too. What do you want?" He held up his phone. A photograph. She didn't want to look. She looked. Darius. Her Darius. In a hotel lobby with his arm around a woman. Young, laughing, leaning into him the way Amara used to before he started coming home late and sleeping with his back turned. His hand on her waist. Not a polite hand. The comfortable, unconscious hand of a man who had touched this woman 1,000 times. The timestamp said yesterday. She stared at the photo for a long time. She didn't cry. Her grandmother's voice lived in her chest. Tears are for after. First you handle it. "Her name is Serena," Kwon said. Even. No performance. Just information being given to someone who deserved it. 14 months. 14 months. They'd been married for 1. She was 6 months pregnant. The math arrived without permission and changed the shape of every memory she had. "Oi, come inside," she heard herself say. They sat on her porch. He leaned against the railing. She sat in the chair she bought at a thrift market 3 years ago when she first moved to Atlanta, with 2 suitcases and more stubbornness than sense. "My husband told me never to contact you," she said. "The moment I mentioned your name, he went pale. I saved your number as a warning to myself." Smart. Clearly not smart enough. The Atlanta night buzzed around them. Cicadas. A distant highway. Someone's music 3 streets over. "Your father left you property," Kwon said. She went still. 3 houses, 2 commercial lots in Buckhead, a trust. Darius is listed as next of kin on all of it. The stone in her chest grew heavier. "He targeted you. He knew about the inheritance before he ever spoke to you." She stood, walked to the railing, gripped it with both hands and focused on the rough wood under her fingers. Real things, solid things. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because a year ago you stood in front of my entire security team for a woman you barely knew. You didn't flinch. You didn't calculate. You just acted." A pause. "I haven't forgotten that." She turned around. He was looking at her the way people look at something they've been trying to categorize for a long time and still can't. "Go home," she said. "I need to think." He nodded, walked to the steps, stopped. "Lock your doors tonight." Then he was gone. She knew how his number had ended up in her phone, 10 months ago, a private event she was coordinating in Buckhead. During the event, a security guard grabbed one of her junior nurses, young, scared, a credential misunderstanding. The guard was rough. Amara walked directly through Kwan's security detail without slowing down. "Let her go right now. She works for me." The room froze. Everyone looked at Kwan. He told his men to stand down. Afterward, he found her in the corridor and handed her a card. "If you're ever in trouble you can't handle alone, use this." She went home, told Darius. Darius went pale in a way she filed as strange and forgot about. What she had never told anyone, what she had packed into a box and sealed on the highest shelf, was that Buckhead was not the first time she had met Kwon Jae-won. 1 month before her wedding, a private dinner. A night that happened the way certain things happen, suddenly, completely, without permission. One night she had blamed on nerves and buried deep. She walked down the aisle 6 weeks later and never looked back. Until now. 3 days later, her doctor called about her prenatal blood work. Genetic markers, a flag, something that didn't match. She drove to a pharmacy across town and bought a private DNA kit, listed Darius as the father. Waited 48 hours like she was waiting for a verdict. The results came on a Tuesday morning while she was eating toast she couldn't taste. Alleged father excluded. She read it 4 times, then she counted backwards. The weeks, the months, peeling back time until she arrived at the one night she had refused to think about. 1 month before her wedding. Her hands were shaking when she called him. "I need a DNA sample," she said. "Don't ask why. I'd just come." He came in 11 minutes, sat at her kitchen table, gave her what she needed without a single question. The results came back 46 hours later. She read them standing at her kitchen counter in bare feet. Morning light through the window, refrigerator humming behind her. Match confirmed, 99.97%. The paper blurred. She pressed the heels of her hands into her eyes and stood there until she trusted herself to speak. Then she called him. He arrived in 11 minutes. She handed him the paper without a word. She watched him read it, watched his face do something she'd never seen, not break exactly, but shift, something deep and structural moving underneath. He set the paper down carefully, like it could shatter. "Amara, you knew I was about to get married," she said. Controlled voice, uncontrolled eyes. "That night, you knew. I know. I trusted Darius. I put his name on everything my father left me. I wore his ring. I built a life with him." She stopped. "And you, that night—" "I know," he said again, quieter. "Leave." She held up one hand. "I want Darius gone. I want all of it gone. I'm having this baby and starting over, and I don't need either one of you." Something that might have been pain moved across his face. "I understand," he said. And he left. She slid down the kitchen cabinet and sat on the floor and finally, for the first time since all of this started, cried. Not for Darius. Not even for the paper on the counter. She cried for the girl who just wanted to be chosen, actually chosen, by someone who wanted her and not what came attached to her. The baby pressed against her ribs from the inside. She laughed through the tears. "I've got you," she whispered. "I've got you." That evening, she called her best friend Tola, told her everything, the DNA, the move, the new apartment address. "Nobody else knows," Amara said. "So, just you." "You know I've got you," Tola said. She did know that. She had known Tola for 11 years, which is exactly why it never crossed her mind. 3 days in the new apartment, her phone rang. Darius. She answered because she needed to hear it, needed his voice to confirm what she already knew in her bones. Amara. Not warm, not guilty, transactional, like calling a contractor. "I know where you are." Her blood went cold. "I don't want drama. I want one thing. The properties your father left you. Sign them over. That's all you've ever wanted," she finished. Silence. "Sign the papers. This ends quietly." "And if I don't?" His voice dropped. "You're a pregnant woman living alone. Think carefully." The call ended. She stood holding the phone, then she heard it. The soft, careful creak of her front gate. She moved to the window, looked through the curtain. 3 men, black clothing, masks. Walking toward her front door like they had all the time in the world. She was already dialing before she finished the thought. Kwon picked up on the first ring. "They're here," she whispered, moving toward the back of the apartment, one hand on her belly. "3 of them. Darius sent them—" A bang on the door. 14 minutes, Kwon said. Sharp, already moving. She could hear it. "Bathroom, lock it, floor, don't open anything." Kwon, 14 minutes. It was 11. She heard them breach the front door at minute 4, heard them moving through the apartment, methodical, unhurried, which was somehow worse than if they'd been frantic. She was on the bathroom floor with her back against the tub and her hand over her mouth and the baby pressing against her ribs like he was trying to make himself known. The bathroom door handle turned. Then, sound from outside, fast, absolute, final. Silence. Then Kwon's voice through the door. "It's done. Please open it." She did not want to go to his house, said so 3 times in the car. He listened to all 3 and kept driving. "I'm not staying long," she said when they arrived. "Stay until it's safe." "I can handle—" "You were on a bathroom floor 11 minutes ago." She opened her mouth, closed it, stayed. The next morning she met the maid. Ji Young, quiet, early 20s, eyes that watched the floor more than they watched you. Amara made a point to say good morning, to smile. When Ji Young brought breakfast, Amara asked how she took her tea. Ji Young looked up like nobody had asked her that in a very long time. "Milk," she said quietly. "2 sugars." "Sit with me," Amara said. Ji Young hesitated, then sat. 2 days later, Serena appeared at the gate, 8 months pregnant, eyes red, a bag on her shoulder like she'd left somewhere fast and hadn't stopped moving since. Amara looked at the woman her husband had been building a second life with and felt, not hatred, recognition, the exhaustion of a woman who has been lied to so completely she's started questioning her own memory. "He told me you knew," Serena said. Hoarse. "He said you'd agreed to a quiet divorce." "I know. He was paid, Amara." She stopped, breathed. "Someone paid him to marry you. I heard him on the phone. He said Sungmin. He said the plan was always the properties. He was reporting your schedule, the events you coordinated, all of it. Your whole marriage was a surveillance operation." The 2 women stood in the morning light of Kwon's courtyard, both pregnant, both used. Amara reached out and touched Serena's arm. Just briefly, just enough. "Come inside," she said. "Have some tea." The baby came 3 days later, not in a hospital. In Kwon's house because her water broke at 2 a.m. in the kitchen while she was eating crackers because the baby had been restless all night. She said his name without thinking. "Kwon." Quietly. Like it was the obvious thing. He was there in 40 seconds. At 4:17 a.m. after 3 hours of labor, through which she held the midwife's hand and refused to hold Kwon's, refused through sheer stubborn principle even when the contractions made her vision go white, her son arrived. Loud, furious, perfect. The midwife placed him on her chest and everything else fell away. The betrayal, the anger, the broken marriage and the wrong text and the DNA paper and all of it. She was just his mother. "Hey," she whispered, "I've got you." She looked up. Kwon was standing at the far side of the room, exactly where she'd allowed him to be all night, his face doing that deep structural shifting underneath the surface. Their eyes met. She nodded once. He crossed the room, sat beside her. When she placed their son into his arms, Kwon held his boy, and the most feared man in Atlanta sat there at 4 a.m. and couldn't speak, couldn't perform composure, couldn't be cold or controlled or any of the things that kept him alive in the world he'd built. He just held his son and turned his face away. Amara saw everything on it before he turned. She filed it in the place where she kept things that mattered. She asked to freshen up around 6 a.m. gone 13 minutes. She came back to an empty crib. She stood in the doorway and the world went very slow and very loud simultaneously. Kwon. He was already in the room, already on the phone. Ji Young was gone too. The next 6 hours were the longest of her life. Kwon activated everything, every contact, every resource. Police arrived in 20 minutes. Amara sat in the living room with her hands folded in her lap and refused to go to the dark, screaming place that was waiting for her because she could not afford to lose anything right now. She kept thinking about Ji Young's face when she asked how she took her tea. Ji Young called at hour 7, crying so hard the words barely came through. I can't do it. She was kind to me. She was kind to me." She gave them the address. She told them everything. Yes, Sungmin had planted her in the house 3 months ago. Monitor Amara. Report back. When the baby came, the order changed. Take the boy. Sungmin had a buyer. A wealthy family abroad who had been trying to acquire a child for 2 years through channels that didn't bear examining. And Kwan's mother had known, had approved it, had told Sungmin that a Nigerian woman's child had no place in their family line and that removing the problem early was cleaner than fighting it for years. When Kwan heard this, his face went very still. The kind of still that is not peace, the kind that comes before a decision gets made. "Let's go," he said. Police and Kwan arrived at Sungmin's location in Gwinnett County simultaneously. Clean house, quiet street, the kind of neighborhood where nothing looked wrong from the outside. Sungmin opened the door and saw Kwan's face and understood immediately that no version of the next 5 minutes ended well for him. The baby was inside. Safe. Asleep in a car seat in the living room as if he was simply waiting for someone to come collect him. Unbothered. Magnificent. Amara walked past everyone and picked up her son and stood there with her eyes closed and her cheek against his head. He's here. He's here. He's here. The family gathering happened 1 week later. Every senior member. Everyone whose opinion shaped the architecture of the Kwan family. They sat in a formal room and looked at Jae-won standing at the head of the table and understood from his posture alone that this was not going to be a discussion. He laid out Sungmin's actions. The jealousy, the years of positioning for the inheritance, the planted maid, the buyer, the near sale of a newborn boy. Then he turned to his mother. She was already smaller than when she'd arrived. He laid out her involvement with the same precision, the calls, the approval. The specific words she had used about Amara that were now documented and witnessed. "You tried to sell my son," he said. The room held its breath. "You used the word remove about a child who carries our blood because his mother is Nigerian. You coordinated with a man who was going to hand him to strangers in another country." He looked at her for a long moment. "You are no longer part of this family, removed from every property, every account, every record. If you contact Amara or my son, I will not call it family business." He straightened his jacket. "We're done here." Darius signed the divorce papers from a position of zero leverage. The properties stayed Amara's, every single one, her father's legacy exactly where he had left it. In her hands. Tola called twice. Amara let it ring both times, blocked the number. Sat quietly for a few minutes thinking about 11 years of friendship and what it meant that all of it could be erased by a phone call to the wrong man. Then she made tea. 2 sugars? Some losses you just had to let be losses. 6 months later. Amara's apartment, Atlanta. Her name on the lease and the properties and everything, the way it should have always been. Kofi J, 2 worlds in one name because he came from 2 worlds and belonged fully to both, was asleep in the next room. Di Kwan was on the couch, not performing anything, just present the way he'd learned to be, showing up, staying, not demanding a name for what this was yet. "That night," Amara said, "a year ago, were you going to tell me? Ever?" He was quiet for a moment, deciding between careful and true. "I didn't know how to be someone worth telling," he said. "I've spent a long time being a person who takes things, not someone you build something with." She looked at him. "You're learning," she said, slowly. "I know." The smallest smile. "I'm watching." From the next room, Kofi J made the small, restless sound that meant he'd decided he was hungry. They both heard it. They both moved. Their hands reached the doorway at the same time. Amara looked up at Kwan. He looked down at her. "Go," she said. "Me? You need the practice." He walked in. She stood in the doorway and watched him pick up his son with the careful, deliberate hands of a man who is terrified of doing it wrong and does it anyway every single time. Kofi J looked up at his father's face, stopped fussing immediately. Kwan exhaled slowly, and Amara, standing in the doorway of the apartment she paid for with her own name, in the life she rebuilt from nothing twice, felt something settle in her chest that had been unsettled for a very long time. Not rescued, not saved. Just home. And that is where this story ends. One wrong text, one secret night, one baby that almost got sold to strangers, one husband who was never a husband, a best friend who wasn't, a family that chose jealousy over blood, and somehow, on the other side of all of it, something real. Now I need you in the comments right now. Which part broke you the most? Was it Darius and the properties? Tola? The maid taking the baby? Or was it Kwan's own mother, Because that one was cold even by this story's standards. Drop it below. Tell me everything.
Hello viewers, thank you for watching to the end. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and share. See you in the next video.